You've probably heard that it is impossible to get burnout because if you work on something that you actually want, it is almost impossible to get it because you're doing what you want. This would have been true if you didn't have any other responsibilities. The only thing you do is only that particular thing. And when we come into the reality, you have work, you have school probably, you have a dog probably, you have someone to take care of, you have bills to pay, and just like doing something on the side, it is adding more stress on you. And all of this makes you a burnout because you just add a lot of things on your to-do list and add constant pressure on yourself. All of this happened due to one main reason. You just don't know how to rest. Burnout happens not when one deadline is coming, not when you just have a rough week. When you constantly keep adding pressure on yourself and you just keep going, which slowly makes you tired, disrupts your sleep, makes you low in energy and unable to do whatever it is, and just makes everything hard. The first thing I want to discuss is that your brain was never meant to stay on forever. Here's what usually happens. You set a goal. You set a particular amount of hours you have to put in order to achieve that goal. But you also have a lot of other things on your to-do list. And like every normal adult, every single week is different. Something comes up and just really disrupts everything else. And when you do that particular thing, you have to keep up with the other stuff. And that particular thing is the thing that makes you always alert. Like, I forgot to do that, I forgot to do this, but I have also to do that. And this constantly reminding to yourself that there's always something you have to do is the thing that makes you mentally tired, which is more than unnecessary. The only thing to avoid that is you to remind yourself, no one will get hurt if you just skip one thing. Don't get me wrong. The mentality is you doing your best not to avoid it and only avoiding it if that's the only reasonable option. If you think that nothing will happen if you skip one, you not only skip it once, you skip it twice, you skip it 3 times, and all of a sudden half of the work is not done. The idea is to always try your best to do what you have planned and only remove it if you have more important things that you have to take care of. Which gets me to the second point I want to make. Effort without reward breaks the brain. Because nowadays we live in a society where whatever you put in effort to, you want to see a reward immediately or almost immediately. It doesn't really matter how hard the subject is, how hard the matter is, you have to see a reward immediately. You've probably been dieting for 2 weeks, you're 50 kilograms overweight and you want to see immediately 3 kilos under or 10 kilos, which is a very wrong point of view because how much effort you put in has very little correlation of what you're going to get. You have here to remind yourself the 80-20 rule. 20% of the results are achieved with 80% of the effort, and 80% of the results are achieved with 20% of the effort. If you work hard and you see progress, the dopamine rushes and you just actually feel good about it because you're actually feeling some results. But the moment that doesn't happen, you feel bad about it because you have put so much effort in and you don't see any results, which is completely normal because getting from point A to point B usually requires that much of effort. And getting from point B to point D, for example, takes this much effort. It is very, very hard at the beginning. To get things going, it takes a lot of effort. And usually people see results after 1 year of grinding or 2 or even more. And when you constantly check on yourself, when you constantly check what you have achieved, and when you constantly see how much effort you're putting, there is going to be a very long time where you don't feel like doing it. But the thing is that 1 month you achieve a small part of the thing. The second month you achieve a small part of the thing. The third month you achieve a slightly bigger part of the thing. And when these months stack up, you got from 1 to like 1.5, and this is the progress that you actually want to see in 2 weeks. But this particular thing, it just takes way more time. And when you constantly check on that, you don't see the progress like from point A to point B and how in the future is going to look like. You just lose hope if this is going to work and if it is worth doing that. You just basically have to remind to yourself that it just takes a lot of effort to get things going, and you just have to stop always checking on your progress because progress is not a straight line. 1 month you can achieve 70% of your goals. The next month you can achieve only 20% of these goals. Sometimes you have a lot of things that you cannot control. And the only thing you have to do, stop checking that much on what you have done and check more of if you're doing your work right, how you can improve and how you can do more work. And the last thing that actually happens is the lack of control. There are a lot of things you cannot control. And these things that you cannot control are things that are just mentally exhausting you. Like you constantly keep asking yourself, what will happen if this thing don't work out? What will happen if I don't make that particular money? What will happen if I work this much and I don't get that? And all of this is stacking up over time. And your brain has this very bad habit of making every single possible bad outcome and constantly reminding you of that particular thing, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. It is a very, very big curse because it gives you all of these bad possibilities that some are more prone to happen than others. For example, if your business doesn't work out, it means you'll be left in debt, so you'll probably die. That's not exactly true. Like, yes, if this doesn't pay off, you'll get in debt, but that doesn't mean that you're really going to die. You'll have a hurt ego, which sucks. You will have a lot of things that you will regret, but this is how you learn. Your brain just overreacts to certain outcomes. And when it does that daily, it just constantly eats you inside. You feel a lot of stress, your mood swings, you're constantly hungry, you're constantly tired, and over a long period of time, it's just destroying you. Stop overthinking that much things. Overthinking, as I said, is a blessing because you see things that can happen, which you can make sure that they never happen. But it is also a curse because it is constantly reminding you of the worst thing that can happen, which is not always the case that can actually happen. It just overreacts. This just eats you inside, which is the thing that you absolutely have to avoid. In order to avoid burnout, you have to learn how to relax. It is important to get your things done. It is important to work on your goals, but it's more important of you mentally not getting that deep and just realizing that failing is all a part of the game. And if something doesn't happen, it doesn't mean it's the end of the story. It just means that this particular didn't work because you just did something that didn't work out and you just have to try again. That's actually the reality. So I hope this video was helpful and we'll see you in the next video.